But yeah, well, we had 4 environmental colloquia. I think the first was in Sligo, and I was a lecturer in Trinity College in the Environmental Sciences unit, which was, I think, the first master's program in environmental sciences in Ireland. So it had a lot of graduates who were involved in the industry and government. And but there was no organisation to sort of network amongst them and no mechanisms for it. So at each of the colloquia, I organised a side meeting to talk about whether we needed more networking. And after, I think, at the 4th one in Galway, we agreed we should set up an association. There was over 100 people joined that side meeting. I hadn't realised that I was the chairperson of the first committee. I thought somebody else was, but yeah, well, I was always interested in biodiversity. That's why I always wanted to study zoology or natural history. And when I was in Galway as a student, I learned about biogeography and the theory of biogeography from the late Kieran McCarthy. And that really inspired me because I could see that there was actually patterns in nature that could explain the causes of this great variability in nature. That things weren't that random after all. There was kind of cause and effect. But I didn't think I would get much of a career in it. But I did my PhD on biogeography and looking at time series over time in Lough. But I kind of got back to looking at biodiversity and biogeography in a more academic position later when I moved to New Zealand. And during that time, and while in Ireland with my company as well, we set up some European databases, which eventually went global and formed this field called Ocean Biodiversity Informatics. And analysing those databases has probably been the most satisfying because we suddenly discovered that things I was told as a student in Galway weren't true at all. They didn't really stack up when you looked for the evidence. They were very nice stories at the time, and they suited the purpose of, those of us living in a little bubble. I think the twin crises of biodiversity loss and climate change are the 2 biggest challenges, and they're sort of connected because biodiversity loss is already happening at an accelerating rate, but climate change will only make it more difficult. But by protecting the biodiversity we have now will also help mitigate against some of the effects of climate change and give more resilience to nature to withstand and adapt to it. My short answer is the same one a friend of my father's gave to me as a teenager. He was a very, this man was very well educated. He used to work in the Foreign Service and I think it studied philosophy and all kinds of things. And it's the old Greek idea to live an active life with a sense of directed by reason. So if you just work hard and you understand what you're doing and why you're doing it, you have a purpose. That's the key to everything, really. Yeah. And doing useful things as well. I think don't always try to be going for things in the clouds about theoretical advances because they kind of come and go. But people who do useful science, like develop new tools and databases and information and bring stuff together that other people can benefit from, or write new software programs, they're often the most highly cited researchers because they've just done something that's really useful for everybody else.